Proverbs chapter 10. Now we've got to a significant moment in the book of Proverbs. The last 9 chapters we've been discussing wisdom as an idea, and we discovered that wisdom is actually Jesus Christ. But we now actually got to actual Proverbs, which are beginning in chapter 10 and will go right through to the end. So now each chapter is going to be made up of a heap of Proverbs, at least 30 per chapter. There are actually nearly 900 proverbial sayings in the book of Proverbs, so we're now going to go through a lot of them. Some of the Proverbs are in kind of like bunches, we're all about one subject, but some of them are just a heap of wise sayings, one by one, and most of them, you don't need to say anything about them. They're just common sense. It'd be like me saying, if eat too many lollies, you'll get sick. Well, that's just obvious. Some of the Proverbs we're going to go through just make sense on their own. Some of them you have to think about. They're very insightful, but then in the process of thinking about them, you understand the point. So I'm going to make comments as we go through now this chapter and all the chapters to the end of Proverbs. I'm going to read the chapter and then make comments on a few of the Proverbs, but most of them will just let the Proverbs speak for itself. Proverbs 10, the Proverbs of Solomon. A wise son brings joy to his father, but a foolish son brings grief to his mother. Ill-gotten treasures have no lasting value, but righteousness delivers from death. The Lord does not let the righteous go hungry. He thwarts the craving of the wicked. Lazy hands make for poverty, but diligent hands bring wealth. He who gathers crops in summer is a prudent son, but he who sleeps during harvest is a disgraceful son. Blessings crown the head of the righteous, but violence overthrows the mouth of the wicked. The name of the righteous is used in blessings, but the name of the wicked will rot. The wise in heart accept commands, but a chattering fool comes to ruin. Whoever walks in integrity walks securely, but whoever takes crooked paths will be found out. Whoever winks maliciously causes grief, and a chattering fool comes to ruin. The mouth of the righteous is a fountain of life, but the mouth of the wicked conceals violence. Hatred stirs up conflict, but love covers over all wrong. Wisdom is found on the lips of the discerning, but a rod is for the back of one who has no sense. The wise store up knowledge, but the mouth of a fool invites ruin. The wealth of the rich is in their fortified city, but poverty is the ruin of the poor. The wages of the righteous is life, but the earnings of the wicked are sin and death. Whoever heeds discipline shows the way to life, but whoever ignores correction leads others astray. Whoever conceals hatred with lying lips and spreads slander is a fool. Sin is not ended by multiplying words, but the prudent hold their tongues. The tongue of the righteous is choice silver, but the heart of the wicked is of little value. The lips of the righteous nourish many, but fools die for lack of sense. The blessing of the Lord brings wealth without painful toil for it. A fool finds pleasure in wicked schemes, but a person of understanding delights in wisdom. What the wicked dread will overtake them, what the righteous desire will be granted. When the storm has swept by, the wicked are gone, but the righteous stand firm forever. As vinegar to the teeth and as smoke to the eyes, so are sluggards to those who send them. The fear of the Lord adds length to life, but the years of the wicked are cut short. The prospect of the righteous is joy, but the hopes of the wicked come to nothing. The way of the Lord is a refuge for the blameless, but it is the ruin of those who do evil. The righteous will never be uprooted, but the wicked will not remain in the land. From the mouth of the righteous comes the fruit of wisdom, but a perverse tongue will be silenced. The lips of the righteous know what finds favour, but the mouth of the wicked only what is perverse. So we're now going through the proverbial sayings, or the Proverbs, and this is what the book's named for. It's named for these Proverbs. So each chapter now I'm going to just comment on a few. The very first one here in chapter 10 said, "A wise son makes a glad father, but a foolish son brings grief to his mother." So that's what we find here is an example of the type of proverb that we're going to find over and over and over all the way through. And this is what we call parallelism. So often with Hebrew poetry or Hebrew wisdom proverbs, and sometimes it was the case with other languages and cultures as well, is that they would make the same statement twice. Sometimes they would say it one way and then say it in the opposite way to make the same point. Sometimes they would say it in one way and then say it again in an even greater way to make the same point. So this one, and that's called parallelism, because you're saying two things in parallel. This one, the very first one said, "A wise son makes a glad father. A foolish son," so now it's saying the same thing but in the opposite way. "A foolish son brings grief to his mother." Now if you think about it, you would say, well, a wise son also makes his mother happy, and a foolish son also makes his father sad. That's true, but this is just poetic language done in a proverbial way to make a point. And so these proverbs are what's generally true. So it may be that out there in the world somewhere, there's a foolish son and he still has a happy mother. So, you know, there may be at times exceptions to these rules, but in general, if you have a wise, and it's not only sons, it's daughters as well, if you have children that are good children, they do what's right, they'll make mum and dad happy. But if you have children that are silly, they don't follow instructions, they don't listen or pay attention, they don't care, they break the law, they will cause a lot of pain and worry to their parents. So it doesn't matter if it's a son or a daughter who does it, and it doesn't matter if it's a mother or father who feels it. This is how it is. And so this is the nature of the Proverbs as we go through. We see this parallelism, and we see that these are things that are true in a general way of speaking, even though occasionally there may be exceptions. So in verse 3, we see another one. "Yahweh," that's God, "will not allow the soul of the righteous to go hungry, and he thrusts away the desires of the wicked." So he's making the point that, you know, God looks after the righteous and feeds them, but God ignores the wicked and doesn't give them their desires. So this is something that's true in general, even though there may at times be exceptions. For example, we know that there are righteous people that sometimes are persecuted for their faith. So you might say, well, God's not feeding them. No, that's an exception. But we also know that God will look after them in eternity. He will provide all their needs. So it's also true in a bigger way as well. So as we go through the Proverbs, we're going to learn many things that are the way life is, the way things are spiritually, the way things ought to be. They're not necessarily always true 100% of the time in every circumstance, but this is generally how things are, and this is an example of biblical wisdom. It says in verse 22, "Yahweh's blessings bring wealth, and he adds no trouble to it." So when you or I or anyone gets the blessing of God, it doesn't come with unintended consequences. It's just the pure blessing of God, and it comes with happiness. Sometimes we get good things in life, but we've obtained them through our own efforts or through our own cleverness or through whatever, but sometimes they come with unintended consequences. So for example, you might work hard. You might put forward a case to your boss why you should be promoted because you're better than that other guy in the office. So you get the promotion, but now the other guy's complaining. So yeah, you get the promotion and you get better pay, but you've still got the circumstances of life to contend with. So even in a good situation, there can still be life's circumstances. But when the Lord gives you blessing, it doesn't come with trouble. And I really like that. Lord, bless us all the more. In verse 24 it says, "What the wicked fear will overtake them, but the desire of the righteous will be granted." So this is a verse about faith. Wicked people are afraid of things. That's kind of like faith for something bad to happen. But the righteous people desire good things. That's faith for something good. And we know what happens when you believe. You receive. So that is a proverb telling us to believe. Put your trust in the Lord. Be righteous. And then when the Lord blesses you, it will not come with any problems. Lord, thank you for the wisdom of Proverbs chapter 10. And I ask you to bless your people. Lord, thank you for your blessing that does not come with trouble. And Lord, increase us, expand us, and give us grace that we too may be a blessing to others. Amen.